Hi, Alex here from Rebeloper.com and welcome back to the channel. Now in this video, I'm going to show you how you can create a custom errors in Swift 5. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Okay, now if you recall in the previous episodes I was talking about the result and how you can easily handle errors, and there were some errors that needed to be custom errors. So today I'm going to show you how we create those custom errors, and because I am building upon that previous video and I don't really want you to take a look at it. If you want to, you can do so, but I would just have a lot of copy and pasting, but we'll have a lot of explanations along the way. So let me show you what we are going to build out today. Let me just hide the code here so you don't take a sneak peek to it. And basically we are going to omit Firebase for now, and we are going to so-called fetch the image after 5 seconds and display it here in our image view. Okay, now the data downloaded is nil. Yeah, I was testing some things. Let me just make sure that we do have some data. That was a little test that I will show you when we will test out basically our implementation. Okay, there we go. After 5 seconds, the activity indicator will stop, and there it goes. And we have our image here. So if you already haven't done so, go ahead and click the link down below and you will be able to download the resources for this project. And that is, let me just jump real quick there. There we go. We have a dispatch queue helper that I have a separate video on, where basically we are delaying some stuff because we want to mimic some delays from the server. And here we have our dog.png that is from Firebase, and I really like this watchdog, so that is what I'm using here. Okay, so let's start off by creating this project from scratch, and I will be really fast because I want to get into the explanation of errors, custom errors, as soon as possible. So here we go. Let's create a new project now. Let's select Xcode, maybe close this, file, new project. Okay, and I will use my very own single view application project. Well, basically that is without a storyboard, and I'm naming this. Okay, that is fine. And then we will embed it in our navigation controller. So let's put it under code. Let's create a new folder here, code. Okay. And I will create a Git repository on my Mac because I will upload it to GitHub. Yeah, the link is in the description, so go ahead and take a look at it. And you can download it or just simply take a look at it on GitHub. So what do we have here? First of all, I will need to import some CocoaPods, so I will just close this and let's take a look at it. Well, we only have tiny constraints, so I will just copy that. And basically what we want to do is open up terminal now and type in cd, navigate to the root folder of our project. There we go, drag and dropping it in, type pod init. I'm pretty sure you already know this. And once the pod file has been created, let's open that up. Let's make this platform iOS 12. Paste that tiny constraints pod in there, and we can safely close this because it is most probably saved, and type in pod install. So yeah, I'm using tiny constraints to constrain all of my video tutorials because it's super easy to use and I highly recommend it. I also have a playlist tutorial on that too. So now that we have our pod installed, let's simply open up our Xcode workspace because we have CocoaPods in there, so we need to open up our workspace, not our Xcode project. And what do we have to do now? Well, let's just simply add in our resources real quick. Here we have our dispatch queue helper, and there we go, finish. And we have one asset, and that is the dog. Of course, we are going to simulate this downloading of our asset with the help of this Dispatch Queue helper. Okay, so let's build up our interface real quickly with the help of a few copy and pastes. Let's see here. First of all, let's open import tiny constraints. So let's go to our root view controller, tiny constraints, there we go, bam. Image view, activity indicator, so I will just copy and paste those two. And let's minimize this and add that in there. Basically it's light gray and a gray activity indicator, and this is starting upon initialization. Okay, let's take a look at what do we have here. Well, we have a set of views. Okay, let's do that. Let's open that up. Of course, we need to create this setup views function, and that is down here. It is a file private function that is setting up all of our views. If you don't know what this really means and you really want an explanation, go ahead and take a look at the playlist about I believe it's results Swift 5. Okay, so that is basically building it up. So now let's just build and run, and I believe that we should be able to see this image view that is of background color light gray and our activity indicator spinning. So let's see, there we go. Okay, pretty great. Now in the previous video I have been, let's see, working on the fetching on this root view controller, but it's basically a good idea to create a separate file for that, and I will create a new file here called service. So let's click on next there, service. Okay, and that will hold a struct called service. So there we go, struct service. And here we will have some static functions. Okay, and basically that is how we are going to call this fetch. And let's see here, what do we have inside our service? Well, first of all, we have our fetch data from server and our fetch data. Okay, so let me break it down to you. And I will just type this out because it's some sort of new code that you haven't already seen on my channel. And yeah, so let's create this file private function, and let's see, fetch data from server, because most of the time you will be fetching some sort of data from a server and you will be getting back some sort of data and an error. So let's create our completion here, completion, and most probably you will get it through a completion, and it will be an escaping completion. And let's finish up our closure here. So most probably you will get back some data, and that will most probably an optional data and an error. And that is an optional error. Okay, and that is how our fetch data from server function looks like. So now we are going to use our dispatch queue helper because, and let's just type in here, dispatch queue helper. There we go. And we have basically here two functions, delay by seconds or delay by seconds on a dispatch queue level, but we are going to use this first one because we want to do this on the main thread. So basically this fetches the main thread, and let's delay by 5 seconds. And inside our completion, we basically want to return some data and an error. Okay, so first of all, let's create our data. So let data equals, and let me just hit Command Shift M, and we will see that here we have our dog. Now this is a PNG, of course, this is an image literal. So what we want to do here is add dot and type in their PNG data, if I'm correct. Let's see there. Yeah, so we need to add in here, or import rather, UI kit, and then we have our PNG data available, and now we can simply complete with this data, and the error will be, in our case, nil. Okay, so that is how we simulate our fetch from data from server. Now we want to create our, and this will be a static file private static. I believe that is where we need to add the static. And now we need to create a static function like fetch data. So static func fetch data, and we will basically fetch an image. So let's call this fetch image. And now, instead of using this completion with data and error, and it's quite cumbersome, we are going to use the brand new result from Swift 5. So let's add in here another completion. It will be again escaping. Okay, there we go. And now, instead of adding all of that cumbersome code with the data and error, we are just going to add in a result, and we will add in here a UI image and an error. So that is what we are going to get from the result. So what are we going to do in this fetch image function? Well, basically we are going to call upon this fetch data from server. So let me just make this a little bit wider so we may see a little bit more. Okay, so fetch data from server, and now we have here our completion handler. Just imagine this as a function that is provided by an API or like Firebase. So now we have our data and we have our error here. And because we do have this data and error, first we need to handle the error. So if let error equals error, we are going to complete, and we are going to completion, and we are going to complete with a failure. Maybe we need to hit Command B so we get auto completion. Oh, here we go, completion. Sorry about that, folks. So completion, there we go. And if we type in dot, we have a failure, so the failure will be the error. Okay, and we will simply return. Okay, now we need to, let's just hit Command B again. So yeah, build has succeeded. Okay, to get rid of that nasty red error. So now that we do have some, so we don't have an error, now we want to guard let unwrap our data. So data equals data else, and else we want to return, but before we do that we want to complete somehow. So completion goes here, and I will talk about that in just a moment because that is what we are going to handle, and with the custom error. And once we do have that data, we want to create our image. So if let image equals UI image, and we are going to select this with data and just type in there data. Then we do have our image, so we can complete. So completion with success, and the success is our image. Okay, pretty straightforward. And let's just add this fetch image into our root view controller. So after setup views, you just simply want to type in service and fetch image. There we go. We have a completion. Here we have our result. And now we need to create a switch statement for this result. Switch result. And if you haven't already taken a look at my result videos, then you should be able to learn it from here. So let's fix that. So we have a success. In the success, we are going to have an image. And in the failure, we are going to have an error. Okay, for the error, we are just simply going to print out the error's localized description. There we go. And once we do get the image, we simply want to grab the dispatch queue. So because we want to do this on the main thread, because we are altering the UI, so we are adding the image to that UI image view. So first of all, let's grab our dispatch queue dot main.async and self dot image view dot image equals image. Okay, next up we want to get rid of that image view's background color, so let's set the background color to be clear. And finally we want to stop our activity indicator. Okay, and stop animating, the same thing that we did in the previous video. Okay, and that is it for handling the result. And of course you can see the beauty of a result here. We have a success and a failure, and it's really easy to understand what we are trying to achieve here. But let's go back to our service, and here we go. Let's talk about finally our error. Here, if I try to write completion.failure, we don't really have an error. So let's create our own custom error, and this is how about this video is all about. So let's just create a new file here. I will name this new file next error plus. Okay, let's create it, and I'm kind of running out of time, so let me just copy and paste all of this, and I will just simply guide you through it, because there's no need to waste time letting me type all of this out. Okay, so we are basically creating a protocol from the localized error, and we need a title, and that could be optional, but we do need a code, an error code. And yeah, that is it. We are having our protocol, and we are creating a custom error struct from our error protocol. Okay, here we have our title, our code, and here we have our description. And make sure that you do add our error description and a failure reason. If you go ahead and jump into localized error, you will see that we do have our error description here, failure reason, recovery suggestion, and helper code. I just thought that these two should be enough. So let's go back and take a look at the rest of our custom error struct. Basically, we have our custom initializer with the title, description, and the code. And we are adding the title to our title here. And if there isn't any title, we have an error. And this error will be as the title if this title isn't provided. Okay, and finally we have our description and our code. Pretty straightforward initialization. Now let me just create, let me just copy and paste, because I'm a little bit short on time here. And let's go to our service, and here we have our fetch errors. Okay, there we go. I'm back to service. Of course, you can put these errors anywhere you want it to. I'm just putting it in the service file, because yeah, that is where it should be. So here we have our no data and our no image. Okay, so what we want to do is use these. And as you can see, we have initialized our custom error with the title and the description and a code. Okay, so first of all, let's take care of this completion of our data. So let's create our error. Let error equals, and it is basically our fetch error dot no data. Okay, you could just simply add that to our completion, but I have just created our error, and now we can simply add our completion with our failure and error. Okay, pretty straightforward. Now, if we don't have our image, or we couldn't create an image, a UI image from our data, then we must provide a completion with another error. So I will create an error again here, or rather yet, let me just do that the other way. So within a completion, so you can see. So we are completing with a failure, and now we are just adding our fetch error and no image. And as you can see, these errors were named very smartly, so we do know what the error really basically means. And yeah, that is how you can create your very own custom errors. Just go ahead and copy this our error protocol and our custom error struct, and from there on you just simply create your own custom error with title, descriptions and codes. Okay, now that is it for today. Rather yet, let's just build and run and see if this actually works. Yeah, and let me just show you how. So let's wait 5 seconds here. There we go, it has been downloaded. Okay, but what if our data is corrupt or something like that? So let's change this data to nil, and now we should be able to see an error message in our log. So let's just wait for that, and after 5 seconds we will be able to see our log. There we go, the data downloaded is nil. And yeah, that is the description of our error. And once again, let me just remind you that we are just printing out our errors localized description upon failure. Pretty nice. Now, that is really it for custom errors. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. And as always, I will see you in the next one.